35 days. 35 days of federal workers rationing asthma medicine for their kids, sleeping in cars, driving Uber, late night shifts just to make ends meet, and this man is not getting a single penny for his wall. 35 days, and that people are applauding him. This man single-handedly shut down the government. It is shameful. Dana Basham, starting with you. I heard no explanation as to why he did this and why he accepted this deal. 35 days later, he still is not getting what he wants.
There's a four-letter word to describe what we just saw, and that's cave. There's no other way to describe it. The president caved after, as you said, more than 30 days, after all of the real world ramifications of what has gone on. He hasn't gotten a dime for his wall. But it's because things have gotten so bad. Obviously, we know that not just from common sense, but from reporting, that he realized he didn't have a choice but to do exactly what Democrats have been asking him to do since day one. You want to have a negotiation, Mr. President? Great, we'll have a negotiation. But let's reopen the government first and then have the negotiation. That is what's happening now. It was exactly what was asked of him by Democrats and some Republicans, to be fair, back when the shutdown began. The one thing I will say that he did say at the very beginning, before he went on with his messaging opportunity, taking advantage of the fact that all of the networks were taking this event live, he did hold out the potential for doing something else. And I have been told by a couple of Republican sources that that is the executive action, perhaps a national emergency, something else that he could do with his own power. Obviously, we talked about it could be and would be challenged in the courts. But my guess is, as he's going to see the coverage, there's no other way to describe it other than a cave. He might be itching to do something that shows that he at least is doing something within his power.
Jim Acosta is our chief White House correspondent. Jim Acosta, what did you think?
Yeah, Brooke, I mean, this was a big cave. I think this is one of the biggest tactical defeats for the president that we've seen in his political life. He created this box canyon for himself. Nancy Pelosi let him walk right into it, and now he's trying desperately to see his way out of it after watching on television this morning the havoc that a government shutdown, a protracted government shutdown, can wreak on the nation's aviation system, with all of those flights being delayed and so forth in the Northeast Corridor. I think that was weighing very heavily on what was happening over here at the White House. But as you heard at the very end of the comments there, he said that he is fully capable and prepared to shut down this government again if by February 15th we don't see some sort of agreement to get that wall down on the border with Mexico. Now, Brooke, I will tell you, standing here in the Rose Garden, this was pretty remarkable to watch, because as the president was moving through those prepared remarks, there were moments in which, and I suppose we know this because we've been following this man for some time now, he can't help himself and was going off of those prepared remarks, going off of that teleprompter, and at times ad-libbing about what he sees as a crisis on the border, talking about women having their mouths duct taped, at one point suggesting that if a wall is built on the southern border with Mexico, that the amount of drugs coming in would be cut, as he said, by a number that people don't really have a firm understanding of. And so the president was making some of these claims that he often makes when he talks about immigration, when he talks about the border in unscripted settings, and he was injecting some of those remarks, ad-libbing those remarks as he was reading off of the teleprompter here. So I think that shows you where the president's head is right now. He just can't give up on this wall. He just can't quit this wall. And I think that is why you're going to see, very possibly in the next 3 weeks, this country right back where we have been for the last 35 days, which is perhaps in the middle of a government shutdown because the president can't seem to get his way on the wall. Now, the other thing that was interesting to watch being here in the Rose Garden is off on the sidelines underneath the colonnade, over here leading into the West Wing. You can see the vice president. You can see Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and senior advisor, cabinet officials, other top officials applauding as if this was some sort of victorious moment for the president. Yeah, celebration. That was just right out of Alice in Wonderland, Brooke. Totally. I mean, to see the White House and people inside the White House applauding the president during one of the biggest tactical defeats, strategic defeats of his political here, to me, just felt like the upside down out of Stranger Things. It is just bizarre to see something like that happen, and they were looking jubilant before he even began his remarks. They were smiling and clapping and laughing and that sort of thing, and it goes to and this is something that we see day in and day out over here at the White House. There are just people here who are not dealing with reality. The reality on the outside world is that during a 35-day shutdown, people are suffering, they're crying, they're on the news talking about how they can't pay their bills and buy their insulin. And over here at the White House, they're smiling and clapping and congratulating themselves for a shutdown that just caused a great deal of agony across the country. And it was striking near the beginning of the president's remarks when he said, and he made this claim that there are government employees who have been getting through this just fine. He suggested that government employees are getting through this just fine. That just suggests that he's not looking at the real. When he looks outside the window of the Oval Office, he's not looking at the real world. And so that is why, if folks are wondering at home, could we be here in the exact same place 3 weeks from now? I think that's probably not a bad bet to make at this point. This president is hell-bent on getting a wall. And my sense of it is he'll sign this CR to get the government open again, but we might be right back in the same place 3 weeks from now, Brooke.
He can't quit the wall, so says Jim Acosta. Jim in the Rose Garden. Jim, thank you.